Whatever level of security service you provide for your clients here as an MSP or an MSSP, we're here to support and enhance your posture, making your business a fully rounded MSSP. Red Piranha has developed a world's first integrated service platform centered around our Eye XDR operating system. And first and foremost, Eye protects and provides instant security compliance for you and your clients out of the box. From here, you can springboard to everything from automated vulnerability scans to digital forensic services that we conduct on your behalf from our Security Operations Center. We have it all, so we're excited to get started in this presentation. Let's go. So since our official launch in 2015, Red Piranha has expanded to more than 70 staff across 5 continents with partners here in Australia and globally. Our experience crosses several industry verticals, from SMBs to enterprises of all sizes, particularly focusing on high compliance industries such as financial services, education, defence, and health. Now let's just go through a very brief history of our company. So our platform was built out of our founders' determination to bring enterprise-grade protection to the mid-market and to bring a holistic security to organisations of any size. Really, our Eye has always been more than a UTM. It has so much more built into it, and now we have the term XDR, Extended Detection and Response, a term which finally describes the depth and breadth of Eye's attack surface protection. Now, if you compare the market against other next-gen firewalls and XDR security solutions, Eye has superior specs and capabilities, yet we're extremely competitive in pricing, which shows incredible value. Australian-built Eye appliances are built to order right here on shore, making us truly Australian-made. And many other competitors in the UTM space provide a device, but when an incident occurs, many don't have the capabilities to detect, respond, and rectify, and the partner is left to find a solution on their own. Red Piranha is leading the security space in Australia, being a complete end-to-end security solutions company, which is making the competition sit up and pay attention. So here we have a snapshot of some of the security bodies we are proud to be a part of or be recognised by, and also some of our industry awards. Now there's lots on the screen there, so we won't go through all of them, but I will highlight just a couple. That we do work closely with the Australian Cybersecurity Centre. We are proudly Australian made, as I mentioned. We're ISO 27001 certified ourselves, and we're also an authorised certifier for our partners. We're part of the Cyber Threat Alliance and OISF for Trusted Threat Intelligence Feeds, and we were awarded the Emerging Exporter Award, Global InfoSec Awards winner of Next Gen in XDR category in the RSA conference in 2021, and we were nominated for Cyber Business of the Year 2021 for the Australian Defence Awards. And we made it down to the final 5 with organisations like Downer and PwC, so that was really exciting for us. Now, this is a really interesting slide from the Australian Cybersecurity SMB report published in 2020 that shows the key findings of cybercrime within Australia. So a huge 62% of respondents have experienced a cybersecurity incident. Almost half of SMBs rated their cybersecurity understanding as average or below average and acknowledged they had poor cybersecurity practices within their business, which is quite outstanding. 70% of SMBs spend less than $1,000 on cybersecurity per year, even though incidents are far more common with small to medium-sized businesses in Australia. And alarmingly, this statistic is quite alarming, nearly 90% of SMBs believe that recovery from these cybersecurity incidents is immediate or within a few days. Yet we all know in this room here today that often these events can actually cripple a business for weeks, months, or even bring about closure. So cybersecurity challenges. So what are some of the challenges in cybersecurity? Well, cybercrime is rising every year in intensity and in cost, and the SME marketplace has high competition and customer expectation. And particularly in the event of lengthy downtime or a data breach, like we just mentioned in the previous cycle, cyber attacks can cripple an organisation. The adoption of new digital transformation initiatives has only broadened the attack surface of organisations. So if we look at some of the challenges here in regards to personnel, well, forecasts say that we need approximately 18,000 security professionals in Australia in the coming years. Yet we're only training around 3,000 to 4,000 at universities per year. It's also really hard for security professionals to stay across all aspects of cybersecurity with so many different specialist areas. Another challenge is budget allocation, but we do see a conversation shifting towards investment more and more, especially as every mainstream news item breeding fear of who's going to be hit next and cyber insurance requirements becoming so strict and premiums absolutely skyrocketing at the moment. Okay, so with all of these challenges out there in the marketplace, how does an organisation achieve improved security maturity? Well, this slide shows the usual stages along the cybersecurity maturity journey. That's a bit of a mouthful right there. Most organisations work through stages 1 to 3 with advisory, vulnerability and penetration testing and security assessments, as you can see in the graphic, and often stop here having identified areas to improve, but not knowing exactly how to move forward, and struggle to get to stages 4 to 7 of remediation, security outcomes, ISMS, and improved maturity, where solutions are actually put in place. These stages often get put in the too hard basket, if you like, and because there are so many different parties doing different areas within this cycle, it can become very disjointed from a management perspective. At Red Piranha, we go all the way on this journey with you and your client with our own holistic solution, combining our people, solutions, and smart automation to get your clients information security management systems and cybersecurity frameworks in place. It really is what differentiates us in the market. And thanks to this overall process and through the emergence of XDR, we can do this quicker, more watertight, and with lower costs and resource usage than our competitors. On average, Crystal Eye XDR provides 5 times more as a solution offering, yet at only an 1/8 of the cost, which is incredible. Okay, so we spoke just then briefly about security outcomes. So this diagram shows the full cybersecurity picture and outlines the 7 security outcomes. And weaknesses in any of these areas leave dangerous gaps in the attack surface. So Red Piranha's Crystal Eye platform addresses each of these 7 security outcomes, looking at cybersecurity from a holistic approach. So if we start at the top of the diagram and move around, we see number 1 and 2, which is policy and training. So these are soft controls that can be the easiest, but also the most challenging fixes. And that's because they're the most human gaps. So it's no wonder that 70% of cybersecurity incidents happen from clicking a dodgy link or from social engineering or types of phishing, often preying on the human need to help. And awareness training isn't just about phishing. You know, we hear a lot about that, but there's so much more to it. It's about the responsibility being owned and accepted by everyone within the organisation. And I'll bring your attention to the SolarWinds example that you're probably familiar with in 2020. But did you know that the key factor into this compromise was an intern who no longer was working at the organisation's weak password that was breached? And that password was SolarWinds 123, so pretty complex there. Something so simple caused massive chaos. So where do we point the finger here? Did the intern not follow adequate password policy sets, or were they even aware that such policies existed? You know, did frontline management fail to follow process on exiting the staff? Was there even a procedure there? Or was it the CEO's responsibility to oversee that their staff were adequately trained and management were following appropriate procedures? So it's a very interesting scenario, particularly given the current discussion around directors' liability on cybersecurity being such a hot topic. Moving on to pillar 3, which is identity and access management. So things like single sign-on, multi-factor authentication are all part of this, but identity access management is so much more and is a big part of the attack surface. For example, network segmentation done well is like putting section doors at the museum, for example. So someone that breaks in the back door can't go anywhere but the gift store. And I have said that I think that, could be deliberate because that's where they all make their money. Moving on to the fourth security outcome, which is vulnerability management. Now, vulnerability management is more than just running a vulnerability scan and ticking that box. For example, it's about running a scan and then investigating the results, examining how it was able to get in, then rating the vulnerability by multiple departments, and then revising the risk. So security operations may categorize a vulnerability as a 10-10, which is, high risk and highly likely. But then as compliance and risk run their eyes over the report, they may reevaluate this and move it to maybe an 8-8, where it's still high risk, but possibly not as likely as what we first thought. So vulnerability management is about utilizing the whole team of security experts to recognize and mitigate risks. Now, as we move around the diagram, we look at 5 and 6, which is security monitoring and incident response. And the questions are, who is actually monitoring the alerts and what are you doing about it? Now, for those dealing with security monitoring, we know it's very noisy and difficult to provide that follow the sun 24/7, 365 eyes on glass capability. We would all be familiar with monitoring alerts, filling up ticketing queues, and a lot of the time it's really hard to sort out the real threat alerts from the false positives, and they can get missed altogether. So Red Piranha has the capacity to assist and respond to incidents quickly with our in-house SOC full of highly skilled security experts. And then we come to number 7 of the security outcomes, which is business continuity and disaster recovery. So how long can a business survive with downtime of a compromise? What's the plan? These are all things that need to be considered because we know in cybersecurity, it's not really a matter of if, it's a matter of when and what are we going to do about it. So we've seen examples of MSPs getting into trouble as well with the manufacturing company in the US, Broadman Model Products. So it's suing their MSP in Volta after a $1.7 million phishing scam for breach of service and professional negligence and malpractice because they claim the MSP didn't provide the necessary service or training required to stop the crime. So it is actually a really important part. Now, we've just seen the security outcomes, but now we're going to look how XDR kind of matches these security outcomes. So the security outcomes are common to all major standards as well, ISO, NIST, COBIT, PCI, and others. And we have the technology and services to increase the posture in each of these areas. So the combination of our products and services helps to establish greater maturity across the entire organization and meet the necessary compliance frameworks such as ISO or NIST that many of our clients are now working to. So what are some of the problems that we find, in cybersecurity land? So I believe we can probably all agree on the following problems. So the threat landscape is becoming more complex and hackers are becoming more and more sophisticated and, every day there's something new that's coming out. Compliance obligations are becoming tougher and businesses are simply overwhelmed with the work that actually is required to stay compliant. Third-party risk is a big driver for change and forcing businesses to step up. Siloed security systems with a mix of vendor products that aren't integrating together can be a real issue for management. Alerts, so we kind of touched on alerts, they're really hard to identify the real threats from the noise, and then manual response when an incident actually occurs. So we don't like to just talk about problems, we like to talk about the solutions as well. And so Crystal Eye offers solutions to each of these problems. So evolving threats, well, we've got threat intelligence, and that includes daily threat intelligence feeds to stay ahead of the latest threats. Compliance obligations as the problem, well, our platform and the supporting services can help you achieve a range of compliance obligations. Third-party risk, well, we can help you achieve third-party requirements and that can, help you win tenders and new business, which is a great thing. siloed security systems, well, with XDR, the unified platform brings all your security controls into the one place, which is great. And how we respond to alerts? Well, our 24/7 SOC provides proactive security monitoring to identify those real threats. And our integrated rapid response to incidents is automated to minimize attacker dwell time. So moving on here to the Eye XDR. So the Eye XDR covers 5 functions of security, as you probably already know, which are managed, coordinated, and delivered through our single pane of glass, the Orchestrate platform. So these are the components that create the Eye XDR. And as you can see, it's such a comprehensive offering, and this slide shows just how vast it is. We use threat intelligence to identify and manage risks and vulnerabilities, protecting the organization's network through our advanced firewalls and security tools, and giving you the ability to detect, to respond, and to recover to get your incident response challenges. So this is becoming more and more prevalent as we go about our business. But the average time to identify and contain a data breach risk is, so in 2020, it was 280 days, according to the IBM cost of data breach report, but I know that that has actually blown out to in the 300s. However, for one of our clients who is in the biomedical space, who is running our XDR platform, an incident was detected and resolved. So that's really important to emphasize, detected and resolved within just 24 minutes. So with our DFIR toolset and playbooks like built in alongside the managed detection and response, you can roll out cybersecurity maturity levels most organizations would only dream of, literally right out of the box. Quite simply, what are the XDR benefits? We don't like to complicate things here too much, so it's about reducing the risk of a security incident. Great. Reducing time to detect and respond. 24 minutes is pretty mind-blowing. And reducing cost of securing your businesses. So 3 really, really beneficial points to be made there from our XDR platform. You can see here, this is a graphic of the XDR platform and how it kind of all integrates. So you can see it's a suite of products that protects the organization from the cloud to the endpoint, and we can offer hybrid or standalone. So obviously with cloud, you know, the shift to cloud computing requires a cloud-first approach to cybersecurity, but they're still on-prem, and it's still vital to protect on-premise networks from, you know, for effective defense in depth. And then the remote workforce. So obviously the increase, particularly over the last 2 years in working from home, has significantly increased the attack surface. So proper endpoint protection is more important than ever. So just quickly going over some of our Eye XDR cloud benefits. So, you know, secure cloud footprints, it's protecting the remote staff, and you can manage multiple clients, which is important for partners. So we are currently running in TPG and AWS, and excitingly, Azure is coming on in Q2. So that's some really exciting developments for us in our cloud offering. So on-prem here, you can see that we have, you know, a vast range of appliances. They're obviously all not listed here, but to meet the requirements for, so from a branch office, a small business, tabletop device, right through to an enterprise, you know, rack mount device. And we're running throughputs from, say, 100 meg right up to, I think we have the record sitting at 60 gigabits, and you did hear correct, that is 60 gigabit throughput. True security on that, not just, you know, firewall. This is with services turned on, that we can actually achieve this, which is phenomenal in anyone's language. So also, instead of mass producing lots of units, which do sit on the shelf and become obsolete, we offer made to order appliances with the latest technology, such as the latest Intel core processors. just a bit of a services snapshot as well. So in the next few slides, before we get into our product demo, I want to highlight the incredible variety of security services we have for you to be able to provide to your end clients. So I'll start by going through our eCISO program, which works in conjunction with our Crystal Eye appliance. Firstly, we don't expect you to be able to read everything on the screen. This is a beast of a slide, and it lists out so many different roles that a CISO is responsible for. Well, what I'll do is I'll break it down a little bit for you, but it's really important to see just how extensive this CISO role is. So if you look at the tasks of a Chief Information Security Officer, it really is clear why they're so hard to find and why they cost so much money. You know, they're looking after all of these roles here. So our eCISO services provides most of these areas in a simple, affordable package to establish a security foundation, to manage board level reporting, and to ensure ongoing compliance. So with Red Piranha, you have access to a range of best-in-breed cybersecurity professionals, and I'll just jump into that here. So this is the rest of our services that we offer. So we have assessments with security reviews. That's one of those that we're actually giving away at the end of this presentation. So cybersecurity reviews, as well as, you know, full assessments. We have the eCISO and also the vCISO as well. That's for end users that aren't running the Crystal Eye appliance. Obviously, there's a price difference with them. Compliance, so working with frameworks and ISMS. It's always a tricky one to spit out, that one. Training, so CSAT training, board education training, testing such as vulnerability assessments, pen testing, scanning, and so forth. And then obviously the management, so with our MDR, our SOAR and our SIEM, and then our investigation, so our digital forensics and incident response. So you can see from here, we aren't just the box in the middle. We really do embody that whole cybersecurity range that you can offer to all of your clients, and it's a really cool thing. So as we move into our product demo, I've put this example of what Red Piranha solutions could look like within your business. Now, these are not necessarily accurate figures or inclusions on you know, particular offerings, but as you can see that by creating an MSSP offering, not only are you able to offer true security solutions to your end client, but you also get to increase your revenue and take your business to that next level. Now, I would like to hand over to Damien, who will introduce himself and take you through our product demo. So thanks, Damien.
Thank you, Amelia. And as she mentioned earlier, my name is Damien Cantelo. I'm the head of product marketing here at Red Piranha. I'd like to welcome everyone today. What we're now going to do is take a look under the hood to see how the Crystal Eye platform actually works. Amelia's given us a really good overview into what features and benefits are available. So we're just going to take it for a quick test drive and show you some of the key capabilities. So where we begin with the demo is with the security dashboard. Now this is kind of a single page that gives us a whole lot of information around what's going on in this particular network. This is a demo unit that I've got set up in my home office here. And what we can see very quickly is a world map with where all the different attacks are coming from. So over time, we'll see different threats coming in from different locations around the world. And you can see them here. We've got some local ones and some from the US. So it's just a very quick visual representation of what we can see. Now, some of the power that we can see through this event log here is we can actually click on any of these particular incidents to get some more information. So this is an RP scan of an Nmap script engine running against this IP address. And what we can do is we can do things like changing the rule action. So over time, as we basically tune this device, we can actually you know, start changing the actions to say, right, we'll drop these types of packets or alert on them, whatever the case may be. And this is what our SecOps team does when we deploy the system, is to make sure that it's tuned for the right environment. Now, one of the other really powerful features here is this escalate button. So what this means is that whether the end client's IT teams or yourselves as the MSP partner identifies some events here that you're unsure about, we can actually escalate these to our SecOps team. So I'll just write test only so the guys don't scramble to try to resolve an actual security breach, but this alert and this message and all the related event data will actually get sent off to our SecOps team. And then that's sort of what kicks off our incident response capabilities. So those response times that Amelia talked about, where we were able to identify and resolve that issue within 24 minutes for a particular client, is through that incident response capability. And just to confirm, although we showed a manual escalation there, our SecOps team actually have automatic access to all of these logs anyway. So they see a similar view, but a more global view, and they can automatically action these high priority incidents without the client or the MSP needing to do anything, but just wanted to show you the manual process there as well. So what else we can do here is have a look at the scan summary. So this is where your automated scans and other things can be listed. The IDPS alert statistics over time, so you can see how that's trending. The top IP addresses across the network, giving us good visibility. A quick network map. Now, again, this is just my home network, so there's just a handful of devices here. And then the top protocols that are running across the network. So again, from that single page, you can get really good visibility across, a quick snapshot of the security posture of the organization. So let's jump through these other areas. If you see on the left-hand menu here, these are the key sections of the product. We'll go through them one by one. So while we're in the dashboard, we can have a look at the system dashboard as well. So this is more kind of your basic speeds and feeds and vital stats of the device itself. So we're seeing the LAN traffic and WAN traffic, so external internet traffic, and how that's trending over time. CPU usage and memory utilization is really just good to see how the box is ticking along. These are all about apps here. Now remember, as Amelia showed us before, XDR really is a unified security platform, providing that umbrella capability across different siloed, or what would traditionally be siloed products, but all now unified onto the platform. So all of those products and features that she showed on that early diagram in the slide deck, these are the features here. So we've got content filtering, web proxy server, antivirus, intrusion detection and prevention systems. So all this stuff, you can either stop or start those as required. Typically, when you're running the box as a primary gateway, you would have everything running because this is sort of an all-in-one security solution. What people might also do for a larger or an existing client, they might either run the Crystal Eye appliance in secondary mode or out of band mode. So it might sit behind an existing firewall or next to an existing firewall, in which case we might turn off certain features. If it's just focused on security monitoring, incident response, then we might not need the content filtering, for example. So really giving you that granular control specific to each environment. You can see a summary of the events in the last 24 hours, user and groups, a disk usage breakdown as well. So more sort of technical information around what's going on in the software update activity as well. So you can make sure that the system is being patched and updated accordingly. So again, a very sort of simple, quick and easy dashboard to show you how the system's running. Now we can jump into the threat hunting dashboard. For those of you who don't know, threat hunting is really more about the white hat hackers, to use that term, actively going out to look for threat actors on the network. As Amelia pointed out, the average dwell time between identifying a threat and then resolving a threat is just under a year. So I think 280 days was the latest stat. So for almost a year, what typically happens is an attacker will exploit a vulnerability on a network, and they'll often do this through automated scripts. So they'll go and compromise as many networks as possible. That's their initial entry point. And then what will happen is, let's say 6 months later or 12 months later, they'll come along and say, right, we've now got hundreds or even thousands of compromised devices. Let's go and launch a botnet attack, or let's use these devices to compromise another target that they're going after. So what that means is that they can often be lurking in the shadows of your network or your client's network without you knowing about it. So that's why threat hunting is becoming more popular and more effective, because you can really, as I said, find those vulnerabilities that have been exploited sitting in the background and often sending data back to home base or whatever they might be doing. So as an example here, we're just looking at even just top network users. You can see, obviously it's my laptop on my home network doing the majority of it, but if this was a corporate network and you could see one particular device, downloading a lot of data and more than it's uploading, for example, you might say, oh, that's weird that, a printer is like downloading or uploading heaps of data. That's unusual. Let's have a closer look at that. Again, with the top devices, you can have a look at which types of devices are producing the right or the most amounts of traffic. And then again, the top network IP addresses and external IP addresses. So you can see maybe there's a hostile external host that all the data is being exfiltrated back to, and you could pick that up from these graphs quite easily that would otherwise go unnoticed. So there's a whole lot of stuff you can do here. You can filter based on the protocol activity. So see what the top protocols are, what the top applications are that's running on the network, as well as filtering by the proxy server. IDPS threat hunting. So that was network threat hunting. Now we're looking at the IDPS threat hunting. So more detailed look at, here is a whole lot of, so this is your inbox. So these are all of the threat alerts that have been escalated. And you can do things like very quickly, just get a source IP report or a destination IP report, which is normally a manual process. This is normally where you get the IT security professionals in once you've been compromised, and they start looking things up and start investigating some of the suspicious looking activity, which can all be done from the click of a button through the interface here. You can also see active sessions. So this is a cool one where you're seeing real time what's going on the network. So you can see the different network interfaces and Wi-Fi connections, etc. And it sort of builds this trend up over time. So you can start to see spikes and see someone like live on the network right now doing bad things potentially. So that's it for the dashboards. There's a lot more information there, but we'll move through to the system configuration. So this is really kind of setting up the box, which again is a lot of the work that typically we will do as Red Piranha to assist, but for our more experienced partners who have done the training modules, and we'll talk about those later, but doing the CEE and CE certification, which are our two training programs. Once you're up and running, we'll get you and your technical teams up to speed so that you can actually go out and deploy the solution at your client's premises, and we can support you remotely. But anyway, that's kind of what the system config's about. So, for example, the task scheduler. As we know, everyone's time poor, especially in IT and IT security. As per Amelia's slide in the deck, the biggest challenges are not having enough resources, not having enough time and budget. So really to be able to automate a lot of these things, like just doing a daily Pcap cleanup, you can actually schedule that as a routine, or you can add new schedules in here and configure them to do things automatically. So it's all that kind of set and forget approach of getting the system to do the work, not your people. Basic account management, so we can set up as a primary or secondary AD, depending on the requirements of the network. Typically an existing network would have an existing Active Directory instance, so we can set up as a secondary, but if it's a greenfield site, we can set up that way. Set up your users, groups and administrators. You can do various backups of the system. We recommend doing that before you do a deployment. Some basic settings here we don't need to look into. Yeah, you can set up hosts and groups and a few other things here as well. So that's the system configuration. Now we'll take a look at the network control. So we can actually set up under certificates. The Crystal Eye appliance can become your CA or certificate authority, or again, if it's setting up in passive mode, you can use your existing gateway as your certificate manager. Device management here, so you've got a network map. We saw a quick snapshot of this earlier, but again, as we go, once you get onto a corporate network, it looks a lot more impressive. You can drill down into different network segments and drill down to specific IP addresses and devices, which is just really good visibility from a top level view to see what's going on and seeing if it's been mapped and different actions down here. Email scanning, pretty standard capabilities of providing that scanning of the emails coming into and out of the organization. The device can be set up as a DHCP server, a DNS server, and also an SSH server. So it does quite a lot of sort of advanced network settings in there, as well as some other settings that we don't need to go into. So network diagnostics tools, so you can actually have a look at specific IPs. So you can actually ping specific IPs and do a trace path, all from within the console here, which is quite handy. Quality of service. So again, if you're running VoIP, We haven't actually got this one turned on here, but if you're running sort of VoIP or video streaming, you want to prioritize that over sort of background noise. So obviously just optimizing network performance. We do both dynamic and static routing that can be configured from within here. SD-WAN provides both IPsec, which is basically your site-to-site VPN, and SSL VPN, which is more your client-to-site, I should say, for the remote workforce, which is obviously the new norm these days. So also with our VPN license, they're actually bundled up to a certain user count, which is really helpful in terms of the total cost of ownership, because most other security appliances do charge for VPN client licenses. Similar, really, while I'm on that point about pricing and subscriptions, at Red Piranha, we really take the approach of it is an all-in-one bundled security platform, and we like to follow suit with our pricing arrangement where all of the features, like the core feature set of the appliance and indeed the cloud version, is all included with the box. You do pay for different service levels. So we've got sort of platinum, gold and silver MDR levels, which is more your managed services capability, where our SOC provides that oversight. But in terms of the actual features, everything that I'm showing you here today is included in the base license. All right, we also have the wireless access point. So more for sort of smaller or remote office or branch sites, you'd set it up as your wireless access point. Typically for a head office, you'd have a separate wireless network set up, maybe a mesh network, but it has that capability there. So that is the network control. What we can also do is now jump into the security configuration. So these are all the core features of the XDR platform. So advanced firewall, we actually have, first of all, as those of you who have ever configured a firewall before, first you set up your security zones, which is all about network segmentation and prioritizing different areas of the network. We also have traffic rules in here, so you can set up all your different rules, as well as application rules and gateway traffic rules. So a lot of this sort of standard that you'd see from other firewalls, but having that integrated into the XDR platform is really compelling. Here's a really cool feature, application whitelisting. This is actually #1 on the list of the essential 8 and even the essential 4. 8 requirements was too many, so they reduced it to 4 recently for predominantly government departments and other clients who need to comply with essential 8 or essential 4. As I said, #1 on that list is controlling applications and blocking unwanted applications. It's something that's actually very difficult to do, but we can provide gateway level application whitelisting even on encrypted traffic. So it is very difficult to do, but what we do is we actually fingerprint the encrypted traffic types of each application, and then you can actually come in, and it's a bit of a task. We normally do this during the setup. You come in, you have a list of all, like it sort of learns over time. So every list of your different applications will come up here, and then you can either disable or enable those applications as you go, and then you can monitor how that's tracking over time. So really powerful feature that is again available out of the box, which is really, really powerful. So force field, this is basically part of our automated actionable intelligence. So those threat intelligence feeds with our partners like OISF and CTA, the Cyber Threat Alliance, we actually provide threat feeds to the greater network and obviously take feeds back from the network as well. So that's a really important part of staying ahead of the evolving threat landscape. So next is gateway security. So anti-malware file scanner. So this is sort of pretty standard sort of AV type capabilities. Anti-phishing, this is a really good one. As we know, phishing is one of the hardest ones to defend against because traditionally you have to rely on your staff being aware of how to identify a phishing email from a legitimate email. And as we know, the threat actors are becoming more sneaky in this domain, in this area, and it's becoming harder for you know, non-IT skilled staff to kind of identify the difference. So we can provide some gateway level protection here to circumvent that risk. So you can block cloaked URLs if that's set up, which is an often used tactic. SSL mismatches. So we know that this is often where for either sites or email, you know, typically where the SSL certificate isn't matching the URL. That's often how they do it if they're pretending to be the bank or whatever, saying, oh, this is NAB, you know, give us your password or whatever. or it's a Microsoft update, so we can make sure that that email is actually, that there's no SSL mismatch there. We have a heuristic engine, so that's more a behavioral type of scanning, where we look for certain patterns, like, oh, it's trying to access some sensitive files or assets on the machine. Let's shut that down, as well as a signature engine. So these are for the known and then the unknowns in the heuristic scanning capability. So that's a really good one. Antivirus, similar to the anti-malware that we touched on before. All right, this is the intrusion detection and prevention system. So obviously a key part of the overall XDR platform. And what we do here, in fact, if we look at the IDPS profiles, we can see the number of rules here is 46,326. I think our material is still saying 45,000, and because of those threat intelligence feeds that we get from those community partners, and indeed from our own network. So every Crystal Eye customer around the world does send anonymous threat data back to our threat feed center, which is our threat intelligence platform, and then gets shared out to our other clients as well through these rules. So that's why the rules keep increasing, because we validate those rules and then share them across the network. And most other IDPS or indeed next gen firewall solutions on the market might have, you know, in the thousands, maybe 10,000 at a push. Some of the bigger guys are doing, but to have 46,000 is a pretty significant number of rules. And really, when you're talking about overall, security performance and protection capabilities, the two key factors that you'll see there are the number of rules that you can run and the performance of the hardware to be able to process those rules at line speed. So this is where we get back to what Amelia was talking about, what we call TST, or true security throughput. A lot of other firewall and next-gen firewall vendors will quote sort of line speed performance because they're often using outdated hardware and chipsets, because we always provide the very latest in our made-to-order appliances, and indeed with the performance you get out of the virtual instances in the XDR Cloud. You're really getting the most powerful device on the market from the tests that we've done, and we've had independent tests to verify that 60 gigabit throughput is just phenomenal speed. That's off our Crystal Eye 80 device. But to have that sort of power and these sort of numbers of rules, that's really massively de-risking the security profile of the organization right there. So there's some critical insights with a few of these stats we're seeing here. All right, and here's the rules that you actually set up. I won't go into all of them because obviously there's 46,000 of them, and you can also modify those rules if need be for each local environment. All right, so some of the other areas here: log processing and reporting configuration. So that's just all your logging capabilities. You can upgrade hardware on the appliances if we're talking the appliances, and you can also allocate storage space on the virtual instances in the cloud if you want to do more or indeed less logging. But yeah, it's important to have all of those logs captured in the case of an outbreak. And also for compliance purposes, you know, most of the compliance standards will require logs to be stored for a certain period. So it's important that you can store those effectively. All right, protocol filtering. So this is the application filter. So again, similar to what we saw before, but the other one is the gateway application whitelisting. This is more the filtering capability, and similar again with the protocol filter, where you can block out certain protocols on the device. All right, and then the web filtering. So this is all of your blocking of inappropriate content. So we've got standard categories like you know, firearms and adult content and gaming sites, that kind of thing, that you can set up policies and easily deploy it out across the network. Again, fairly standard sort of secure web gateway capabilities, but again, integrating into the overall XDR platform, providing a lot of extra value. So that's the security configuration. What we'll now have a quick look at is the compliance controls. As Amelia talked about in one of her earlier slides, it's all about the 7 security outcomes. That was sort of that, those different hexagons around the circle. Everything's all about security outcomes and indeed business outcomes. And we do know that cybersecurity, and look, as MSP partners and MSSPs, we know that the majority of the uptake of different security solutions is driven by compliance requirements. So, you know, if there's someone in the payments industry, obviously PCI is mandatory. if they're government departments, it's the Essential 8 or the Essential 4 that's going to be dictating a lot of this stuff. If they're sort of larger enterprises or listed entities, then ISO is going to be a big driver. So actually having that integrated compliance within the platform is really, really powerful, because normally what happens, organizations will have a separate compliance tool, if indeed they have one at all. Often it's just done in Excel, or they just don't even do it for smaller organizations. But to have all of this functionality integrated into the platform really simplifies things, reduces the cost and reduces the complexity. So let's have a quick look at some of these features. Data loss prevention. This is a really, really powerful one, because a big one here is it could be a disgruntled employee sending out, confidential corporate assets. It could be threat actors exploiting a vulnerability on the network and then exfiltrating the data out, for a ransomware attack, for example. Which is massive. Obviously, ransomware is just growing like, double and triple digit figures I've seen in some reports on ransomware. And the reality is that a lot of this is actually ransomware as a service. So these are companies like Revil, who are actually, they have their own sort of live chat service. So these are basically, threat actors in China and Russia, and they're like contract killers, so to speak, where an organization can say, I want to take out my competitor, or a disgruntled employee or former partner can say, I want to take down company X. They contact someone like Revil and say, yep, here are the IP addresses, do your best. And then Revil then just gear up and say, right, we're going to take down this network and exploit them and, charge them $1 million or $10 million or whatever to get their data back. So it's a serious threat. It's growing massively, and data loss prevention can help with that. So what you can do is you can filter for certain things like credit card numbers, social security numbers, monitor file movements, so if there's anything suspicious going on. And also down here, this is a sensitive file list. So I've just uploaded an example one here of a patent specification. And we can say reject, as in don't allow this document to leave the organization. So if a former head scientist gets fired and wants to, share the patent spec before he finishes up his 4 weeks notice, it'll either reject and or notify the relevant IT personnel about the fact that that's sort of going on. So again, really powerful feature that again reduces the likelihood of that data exfiltration occurring. Next up, incident response services. So this is really kind of one of the powerful parts. You don't sort of see it here; it sort of happens in the back end, but this is really where the integrated services. So that's really one of the key differences of the Crystal Eye XDR platform, is integrating the technology into the value-added services around specifically security monitoring and incident response. Because all too often people just plug in a firewall and just sort of leave it and just say, oh, cool, we've got gateway security, we should be right. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Unless someone's watching it, unless someone's updating it, unless someone's looking at the thousands of logs spewing out of this thing, when the proverbial hits the fan, everyone just runs around like headless chickens trying to work out what's going on. Whereas having a proactive, fully integrated SecOps team with eyes on glass 24/7, it's night and day the difference in terms of the security outcomes that we can deliver. So that capability plugs into the SIEM, so security incident and event management services. So you can see the agents running here. So that's passing all the data up to our SecOps team. Network backups, there's different backups that we can run here. You can schedule those or do manual backups if you're doing updates or whatever. Pcap Snap, this is another really cool feature. Typically what happens if there is a security outbreak at a client who hasn't really got powerful or advanced security protection controls in place, they'll call up maybe the big four and say, hey, come in, we've been hacked. What they will often do is send in some expensive consultants. They'll send you well, not you, but the end client, a significant bill before they come on site. And what they do is they set up a Pcap device, so something like Wireshark or similar, put it on the network and start sniffing network traffic. Now, the problem is it's a bit like ambulance chasing, because you kind of got in a bit too late. By this time, the threat actors have compromised the network, exfiltrated the data, and then encrypted your entire data store. So doing a Pcap after the fact is not that helpful. It's better than nothing, but the best solution is to have Pcap running in real time, so you can actually look backwards in time and see what's happened to lead to the incident. And that's really what we do here with the Pcap analysis. And as I mentioned, you can run schedules here, so you can just set up a schedule and say, right, set up the details to automate the process. All right, risk auditing. This is where we do our endpoint protection integration. So what we have here, you might have heard or seen from some of our collateral, we call our endpoint client app CSR, which is Crystal Eye Attack Surface Reduction. Bit of a mouthful, that's why we acronymized it, if that's the right term, to make an acronym out of it. So it's a CSR app, which basically what that means is you can download the app here, or you could just deploy it on your standard package deployment for your Windows machines, and basically get a list of all the devices here, and it shows you which are compliant and which are not compliant to a whole lot of system hardening and Windows disabling of high-risk features. So it's a really powerful tool, and you get really good graphical kind of views on how many devices on the network are compliant and how many are not. This is something that normally comes around, if someone's has compliance obligations, they might have an annual review where they've got to go and do this, and it's a hassle for the IT team. They're like, oh no, we've got to do the audits again, or the auditors are coming, we've got to prepare, and you've got to run around to all the devices, run some scans and see how it all goes and produce a report in Excel or something, whereas literally from the click of a button you can see it in the platform here. All right, there's some storage capability. We touched on some of the storage stuff before, and almost the final point, because we're just almost getting to the end of time, vulnerability scanning. Look, as we know, one of the most important activities for clients to perform, both in terms of maintaining their security posture, but also adherence to compliance requirements, is an annual security scan, like a vulnerability assessment. These usually cost, depending on the size of the network, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30K for an engagement, and can be quite complicated. And look, it's still necessary to do those things, and that's one of the key services that we do offer. And on that point, we can offer those services to your end clients as well. But for those clients who need more regular scanning, because the problem is that the day that we walk out of a client's network after a vulnerability assessment, unfortunately, the data is out of date. I mean, it's sort of law of diminishing return. Like over time, it'll get more out of date, obviously. So it's good for a little while, but literally you're only as good as your last scan. So new vulnerabilities are being released and discovered. New exploits are being uncovered. New assets and devices are coming onto your network. So it's literally changing every day. So with the integrated vulnerability scanning, we can actually schedule scans here, or you can just run manual scans, where it will actually automate, we'll call it sort of 80% of the scans that you get from a manual scan. But the fact that you can do that regularly, and there's a cost for this particular service, about $600 to do the scan and the report that goes with it, versus that, as I said, 10K plus kind of price for a manual scan. We're kind of getting that cost down to a fraction of the price, and can still tick the box on compliance requirements for a great deal of customers. So another really powerful tool with significant cost savings. All right, well, that's pretty much it for the compliance controls. So I'll just very quickly show you the reports. I won't run into them or go into them, but they basically are a summary of most of the screens that we've seen here. So this is the usual, quick, there's a board meeting on tomorrow, and cyber risk is on the agenda. Someone quick, get me a report. You can just come in and run the executive report, and it can give you a quick summary of a lot of the data that we've seen today. Or you can run into specific areas. So this is more for your, IT management might need to, see a risk report or a system report or wherever the case might be. So this is a quick and easy way that you can produce a report that's, PDFable, that you can quickly run off and take to the board or whoever needs to see it. And then the final section here is the marketplace. This is really where all of the features, because again, from that diagram you saw from Amelia, all of the different products and feature sets that exist under the XDR umbrella, we really treat them as apps within the platform. So you can see here we talk about Active Directory, there's the application filter, anti-malware. So you can configure or install or uninstall any of these. Most of them are installed on this demo box, but you can just configure that for the client specific requirements. So really simple and easy way to get it all up and running. And then to wrap it out, support. So you can log tickets, real-time chat, connect with the community forums. We're really always kind of promoting customers and partners to use those forums. And then also the account dashboard where you can get on and order new services and check out billing and other requirements. So with that, and with 1 minute to go, that is the end of the presentation. So hopefully that gave you a good insight under the hood of the Crystal Eye platform, and hopefully answered some of your questions about how the system actually works. So with that, I might pass back to Amelia.
Thank you very much, Damien. And what I'll do is I'll just bring up my presentation again. There we go. Okay, so look, just as we kind of wrap things up, and we will move into question time very, very shortly, just wanting to highlight some of our reviews. So you don't just take our word for it, but these are Gartner reviews and so forth. So it's really important to put that up there so you know that, we do have credibility behind us in regards to what we're saying. And also the next step. So we do have a lot of really vital or really great webinars that will move you along the partner journey, if you like. So the next steps after this webinar, so this is a partner briefing giving you a bit of an overview of everything that there is. The next one in our partner series is the module 1, which is our orchestrate dashboard. So it really goes through a lot more detail of what Damien showed. And then module 2 will follow on from that on. So this one is on the 3rd of March. And then module 2 will follow on the 10th of March at the same time. And this is where you actually get to have a play. So you get your hands-on with a Crystal Eye in the cloud. And, we kind of dare you to break it. So they're both hour-long sessions, really, really quite easy to do. And you can sign up through the links on our website for those there. And obviously all training is free. Next week, we have a really exciting informational webinar about our SOC capability and how to address our, monitoring and incident requirements. So that's actually headed up by our security operations manager, James, and Damien will also be there, and I might be popping my head in that one too. And then obviously for anyone that's wanting to, that has any sort of dealings in defence, we have our Defence Industry Security Program, or DISP, and that will be running on the 24th of February as well. Now, just next steps for any of our people on the call that actually aren't current partners, we would love to invite you to go onto our website and click on the partner tab at the top and then click the sign up now button. And one of our team here on this call today will be in touch and step you through that process. Now we've got the exciting part of question time and competition time. Now I know a couple of questions are coming throughout the presentation, so we might be able to go back and address those.
Nathan had a question can you export the network map? We don't have a report that's just on the network map because it is it's a dynamic map. It's like a mind map thing where you click on them and it drills in. You can print the screen and see it exactly as you see it on the screen, but it doesn't come into a full report format as such. But yeah, you can if you did want to export it for printing purpose, like for a report or something, you can do that. But it's at least at this time, it's not available in XML format if that's what you were asking to interface into another application. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. Next question was, is there DNS monitoring? So yeah, absolutely. DNS monitoring is a core component of the system. We run our own DNS capabilities, as a primary gate. We actually run that way, and you can do all sorts of monitoring through that. Look at banned domains, set up the DNS zones, domain forwarding, all that capabilities in there, and there's reports available from in there. Because this is actually a good question, because DNS is something that people often outsource. If people just get their web host to do it quite often, which is a big risk because that's a critical part of your security infrastructure. And if it's just your random, if it's a smaller client, if it's like GoDaddy or someone managing it, that's obviously not ideal. So we always recommend doing your own DNS management and monitoring on premise and on the device, like Crystal Eye. Thank you for that question. And the next one was, are there any statistics of TST depending on security rules type enabled? Yes, we've got a document that actually outlines that. So we kind of have there's kind of 3 speeds that we determine. So there's line speed, which is literally just kind of be straight, wire speed throughput of the device itself, which to be honest is actually the NIC speed, so the network interface speed. And that's why when you look at a number of other firewall and security appliance vendors, their throughput speed is normally a rounded number, like something like 100 megabits or a gigabit speed, because literally they just go, oh, well, the NIC is a gigabit, so therefore the firewall is if you don't turn anything on, which is technically true. However, I don't see the point in deploying a firewall if you're not going to turn anything on. So that's why we look at that speed. Then we look at next is the firewall speed. So that's kind of when you're doing packet filtering and all these standard firewall capabilities. So that does then reduce the speed of the appliance because you're turning more stuff on. And then the TST, or what we describe as the true security throughput, is that's with full IDPS and all capabilities turned on. So that's with the whole 26,000 odd rules enabled. So that's kind of your I won't say stock standard, but that's our recommended in the wild deployment setup is firewall, IDPS, content filtering, all that stuff turned on. So and that's there is we've got our hardware spec sheets that we can share with you, and there's also a comparison guide that we can share with you as well, just to show you how that stacks up against each of the Crystal Eye models.
We've got another question there, Damien.
Yeah, just scrolling to the bottom. Yep, thanks, Jason. So we do have some APIs enabled. I would say that our approach, look, there's some further work being done in that area because our approach is more about that unified security platform. So yes, we do understand that we need to be talking to other systems, and we do that. They are typically more custom integrations at the moment. So there are different systems that we have integrated with. We haven't done Bright Gauge as yet, but they are more case by case. Look, as we're growing the organization and our platform, we normally look for clients who say, right, hey, we need a handful of boxes and we need to plug into this platform. Then we'll sort of do the integrations as we go. So it's a little bit more of a progress over time, Jason, on that one, but certainly aware that API integration is always helpful.
And I think that comes down to the flexibility of our company as well, because we do make these to order. We do have, and we are in-house, we do have that flexibility of development and customization, which is actually a really, really important tool, particularly when we're building out with partners as well. And
just to add to that, we do have syslog data available. So if tools are able to pull in syslog data, then that's an easier path to integrate. We'll need to look at that case by case, but yeah, there certainly are some options for us to explore there. So happy to take that one offline, Jason. John, yes. Don't have a view of the demo you went through today. So yeah, you absolutely can. That just depends on how you're set up in Orchestrate. So talk to your BDM about that. But yeah, if you've got a client who's up and running, you should be able to access the dashboard. You will need access to the box itself, so it's separate from the store dashboard. That's something that's more your account management side of things within Orchestrate. But to get onto what we call, that's the Crystal Eye dashboard or interface, you would just need, I assume that you have access to monitor devices on their network already anyway. So as long as you can ping to the IP address of the device, which you should be able to as their MSP, then yeah, we can certainly get you set up so you can get visibility on that.
Yeah, and at deployment, you would set up a user and a group for the admin management of it and make sure that the correct protocols are being followed there.
Absolutely. All right, some really great questions there. Keep them coming through. Don't be shy. We've got time to answer any questions that you might have. No such thing as a silly question, I always say. So if you're thinking it, there's probably others on the call who are as well. So jump in. Okay, great. A couple more here. Yes, we do have reporting from the anti-phishing capability. Let me have a quick look if there's a standalone one. I think it might be included. It's covered in things like, I'll have to go through the specific reports to see which one it's in. But keep in mind that the way that the system's set up, that you can actually jump into any feature and actually just produce that as part of a report. Like if you're doing a board report or just an IT, monthly WIP report or whatever, you can pull out the specific data. So when we say reports, that normally means like a separate exportable or schedulable report, but you can certainly go into any of the features, like any of the screens that we went through today. You can certainly pull through those and you get a list of how each of those modules are running. So yeah, we can provide a bit more information offline, but yeah, certainly that is a capability.
And just a question there about NFRs. Yes, NFRs are available at a few different levels, and that comes with either a 60-day license, or you can apply the actual license for a longer term as well. So yes, we can organise NFR devices.
And Don, should we scrap our endpoint security when using Eye XDR? I like your approach. It's good you're already looking to remove other products, but generally what we do say, as much as we do love the Crystal Eye platform, the defense in depth approach is very sound, and we're always a big proponent of that. We'd have to talk specifically around what sort of endpoint security products you are using at the moment. Certain things, like certainly the AV capability, if they've already got something in place that's implemented and managed effectively, then we can run alongside that. We're more about, although we do have a partner AV component that we use, but we can, as I said, run alongside others. But we're sort of more focused around locking down the system, disabling any vulnerable features of Windows and that kind of thing. So it's more about attack surface reduction is what we do at the endpoint. There's also other things we have, like the MDR app and compliance apps and other things. That's all part of our endpoint solution. But I'd say, Don, let's definitely have a conversation. Bring that up with your BDM, and we'll look at it. Okay, great, thank you. And then, David, does application whitelisting work with devices when devices run to other networks, like work from home scenarios? There's two parts to that. There's application whitelisting at the gateway level, which is what you need for bring your own device scenarios where people bring their home laptops or their iPads or even just smartphones that are non-corporate assets and just browse stuff. So that's where the gateway application whitelisting works. But with the Caesar app, you do also get application control there. So application allow listing is the other term for it. So if it's a corporate device that's at home or on the road, then you can control what's running on those Windows devices. So the short answer is yes, application whitelisting is possible in work from home, but it's the endpoint component that does it, not the gateway part, because obviously you're not behind the gateway. Unless they are, if they're running a VPN back through the primary gateway, then yes, you can. But I'm assuming when you mean, well, you've sort of said that in the second part. So yeah, if they're on a VPN, they can use endpoint and gateway. If they're off the VPN, then the endpoint protection will do it. So hopefully that answers it. Thanks, Peter, for another question. So when you do the CEE training, so that's Crystal Eye Essentials training, which Amelia mentioned, you do actually get a cloud instance set up for yourself. We don't keep that running forever because obviously we've got a number of partners who've done the training, so we don't, because it's spinning up a separate instance for everyone, it's a bit more work, but we do that, and you do get some time. It's only like sort of an hour or two after the training that you can play with it while it's all top of mind, but you certainly can take advantage of that resource. And then if you want to, as per the earlier question, which I think was actually from Jason, our winner today, about the NFR, so you can purchase a reduced price on a Crystal Eye appliance. And you can use that sort of internally and for demos and training and stuff like that internally as well.
And just a question coming through for the application whitelisting from David. Yes, if you are connected to the VPN, that application whitelisting can apply to the network layer, so it will protect roaming devices. And in terms of the Microsoft 365 security events, that is currently managed through Office 365 as far as I was to understand. However, that is being looked at for integration moving forward as Office have their own environment. But as we build out that Azure cloud instance, that's where we're trying to make sure that is fully incorporated and able to be protected in that environment.
Okay.
Looks like that's it for the questions, everyone. Thank you for your input.
Thanks everyone for your time. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to attend our presentation. We hope that it's been insightful, and any sort of questions that you want to take offline, please feel free to reach out to your BDMs, and obviously we'll follow up with an email saying thanks for coming along, and also registering for the next webinars, the Module 1, Module 2 and the informational webinar next week would be great. So thank you everyone, and we'll see you next time.